What's up? Welcome to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show with Whisk and Kev on the Wylde Style Network, fueled by Monster Energy.
We are back again, baby. It feels good.
It's awesome.
And it's just me and you today.
It is. It's going to be a good time.
Well, and then Jeff Salzberg, the voice of God coming in over top of us.
Hello, folks.
That was a very pleasant voice of God.
Yes. Again, we're coming to you live from the Salisbury Center studios, and great show. Got a lot to talk about.
Well, a lot's been happening. So I think a lot's been happening in multiple ways, right? There's been a lot of acts here. So we've been involved with talking to a lot of bands, which has been great. We've been seeing a lot of live music, but then a lot has been happening in the rock world. So I feel like we've been like throwing out these interjections. This happened with Motley Crue, but we only have 10 minutes to talk about it. And then that happened here and that happened there. And then we have to go interview. So today we're gonna like cut to we're gonna dive in deep.
Yeah.
To like a lot of great things that are happening. Maybe great things, maybe some controversial things too in the music world.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of kick things off. One of the bonuses, I guess you could say, to COVID was that people couldn't go anywhere for a while, and bands actually got to go and write music and record music, and lots of good stuff is coming out. And yesterday, the long-awaited Metallica album dropped.
This is so like you're part of the segments of everything we're going to talk about. This is so Kevin Birch about what we're about to do. I feel like I'm just going to sit here. If you see Kevin talking a lot and I'm not talking, because he's probably been waiting to talk about this for weeks.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
very patiently, calmly waiting.
I've been waiting a long time for it because, they announced that they were recording and it seemed like 3 years went by, and, so it finally came out. It was interesting though, because, usually you get, when a band releases a new album, you get like a track, and then the album comes out. And,
yes.
You rush to, back in the days, it was Waxy Maxies to buy the cassette,
Sam
CD,
Goody,
whatever.
Yeah.
Sam Goody was more too expensive.
Right. But and then you had Tower Records.
Yep, for sure.
It's another Manassas.
Which is a great, have you seen the documentary, All Good Things Must Pass?
Yes.
That was awesome.
That was good. That's a good point. I forgot about that. I watched that a little while ago.
Yeah, good stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Metallica album dropped, and over the course of the last 6 to 8 weeks, they released 4 songs off the album.
Yes.
So you did get a little preview, and but the whole thing was released yesterday. I've listened to it a couple times. How about you?
I'm sure you have. So yeah, so I made one good run through it, and then a couple listens to songs that stood out to me. So that's where I am. Like, so I'm haven't done my deep dive, but I don't know. Like, to me, when you listen to an album, I don't know how you're feeling about it, but when you listen to an album, things catch you, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of interesting, the things that do catch you and have caught me. So sometimes, like, in other words, like, I listen to the album for the first run through, I hear a couple songs, they grab me at first, and then like 6 months later, I'm like, with those. And I'm not saying I'm there yet. I'm not saying like I'm feeling that. I really like 72 Seasons from Metallica. Yep. I am really liking this album. So, there's a lot of things that grab me. I would say just even the title track right now, that's the one I tend to be listening to over and over again, and just not because it's first, in the list. It just has really good riffs and a really good hook.
Yep. I think most of the songs have really good riffs and a really good groove, and listening to it, I've listened to it twice now, all the way through, and I think the old school Metallica fans, and what I've been reading online, most of them hate it, because it's not Kill 'Em All, Master of Puppets, or Ride the Lightning.
But nothing is.
Nothing ever will be.
Yeah.
And I was going to speak to that, but I think 72 Seasons is the best album they've released since the Black Album.
Wow. So, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking out. Yeah, Death Magnetic.
Yep.
I like Death Magnetic a lot.
Well, to me, it seemed like there were 2 or 3 songs on most of their recent albums that were really good, kind of catchy, and the rest of it was like, meh.
Yeah.
So, all the way through, I liked all the songs for different reasons, and it's been a long time since I could say that about a Metallica record.
So right. I don't think this is Load or Reload. Right. I'm not a fan of those albums. So if you are, I apologize. I mean, everybody has the reasons that they gravitate to the music that they gravitate to, and for good reasons. A lot of times they like the songs that they like, but I'm kind of with you. Like, in terms of, to me, the canon of excellent Metallica albums are those first 4 albums. And of course, there's a few beyond that, but it's hard to touch that, level again. And also just, the times are different too. The culture of the world is different. So it's hard for that music to match, what's kind of going on in the world. But I think that this is a really good, solid listen. I would recommend it.
Yeah, no, it was great. I'm enjoying it. I don't think it's as good as the new Megadeth record.
Oh, I was going to ask. You know what? That was going to be my thing because we didn't plan before this, and I was again like, this is so your segment. So we've never talked about the sick, the dead, and the dying, and I was going to compare it. I was going to make you compare them.
There's no comparison.
Oh wow, yeah. There's Kevin's Megadeth coming out
for sure. And the other cool thing that happened this week, and we talked about this just briefly before we kicked off the show. They did a mini residency on Jimmy Kimmel Live, which was really cool.
I've been watching all week,
and we got a video queued up. I'm not sure how many folks got to see this, but on the third night, they actually tried to find out if Metallica could be a master of puppets. And so they went to a marionette theater and did a little Metallica skit, and I'm not sure if it's up on.
Those are tough puppets. Those are not, those are advanced. You got to do some advanced puppeteering to manage those people, those things.
But it became very metal towards the end of it. And I don't know if we want to play it all the way through, but
there we go. We got some kids in.
Yeah, kids were there and
live audience.
Started talking about what kind of music they were going to play and whether it was country or rap.
Yeah.
And then someone came out and said, we should play metal.
Yes.
And there's the metal coming out.
Those master puppets. I like the headbanging.
Yeah.
The actual child headbang.
Right. So that was a pretty cool segment. And on different nights, they interviewed the band a couple of times. So it was really a good time. And the music was pretty wide ranging. They played 2 tracks live off the new 72 Seasons album. They played Master Puppets, which,
well, right. And especially with Stranger Things, the exposure that song had from Stranger Things. I think, the world's been re-exposed to that song, which is obviously a phenom of a song. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if you remember this too, Jeff Salisbury, Lou. So I'm going to call myself out here. Like we're talking about whether you like an album or not. You guys, you busted my hump pretty good, like back in the day, because I did not like Master of Puppets when I first heard it. You remember that? You guys would fire me up about that again and again, and I was like, I'm not there. I don't get it. And it took me probably
you're down the White Lion.
Maybe it was a couple months until it finally grabbed me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this shit's amazing. But it I don't know. Just those first listens, I just didn't dive head in like you all did.
Right.
Yeah, I still remember the first time I heard Master of Puppets. We were all piled into Damon's car on the way to McDonald's on break from the hayloft.
Yeah.
And
he loved
check
it.
This out.
Yeah.
Played it, and I was like, oh my God, what did I just hear?
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff there. And, so the more that I was listening to 72 Seasons and reading reviews where the only good Metallica is the first 3 albums, those guys, and thinking back to the Four Horsemen, and interviewing them, I kind of came to the realization that obviously bands grow and evolve. And I think to a certain extent that's happened.
Sure.
But the real thing I think that prevents Metallica from having that same sound and style that they had in the early days is Cliff.
Yo, no, of course.
And so much of what he did for the band, and you really don't hear a lot of people bringing that up per se.
Yeah.
But, I think that's really, and Robert Trujillo is probably the closest bassist they've had to Cliff's style.
Right.
So you hear some of that coming through in some of the newer stuff they've done. But to me, that's the real difference. And I got a couple friends that were posting on Facebook this week. They're like, I don't like this. But they're the ones that are only like the first 3-4 albums. And
sure.
And I'm like, well, it's never going to be like that anymore. And that's one of the reasons.
Right.
So.
With Cliff Burton being absent, from any album after. And, Jason Newsted coming in was phenomenal. It's not like that he was, necessarily a bad, we talked about this last time, right? With Mick Mars. I'm probably going to talk about it again with feel, and just the feel of even excellent musicians exchanging places and how that impacts a band and impacts their sound. That's certainly true to me with Cliff Burton. And that feel, so maybe the first feel of those initial albums are gone because, he's unfortunately and very tragically not alive, to participate in anything, since.
Right. I think the only group that I could think of that really didn't miss a beat but changed the feel is AC/DC.
Yeah.
Somehow Bon Scott and Brian Johnson are two completely different sounding singers, but it's still AC/DC 100% from their first album to their last album. They just, it's amazing.
My theory on that, that's a good diversion. Nice. My theory, this is my dumb, simple, easy theory on that, is I feel like Brian Johnson, even himself, not even just the band very obviously, he invokes the spirit of Bon Scott. That's Back in Black, right? That is like Bon Scott coming out of the grave. And he wrote to that and very openly acknowledged it, even in the songwriting. And it kept maybe that feel there.
Yeah, it's the feel, but even the sound is different.
Sure.
Their vocals are way different, but they're still almost the same. I mean, it's weird because they're so different and you can tell who's who. But when you listen to it, it's almost like they could be interchangeable in the album with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This might be a different topic for a different time, but Doug, from First Try, that was, the percussionist that was here for First Try. He threw this out there to me one time. He said, you can't find, is there 11 songs on Back in Black or 10 or 11 songs? Whatever the count of songs that's on Back in Black, that you couldn't find that many Bon Scott songs that were as good. It's like, what? What ridiculousness. I can just throw out Highway to Hell and just that album and start there, and begin that. Not that we're
almost track for track just with that one album.
Right. Not to have that debate right now, but that debate has been, and all of these conversations that we have and all these places that we have, and that one was thrown out to me at one point. 10. Yeah.
10. I looked it up.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
Right.
Well, and so one other piece of news that kind of came out, hopefully a lot of folks, at least in the DC area, have probably heard about this, but there's a new venue opening up called the Atlantis.
Yes.
Kind of a new old venue.
Yes.
Which is based on the articles and information that's been filtered out. And I didn't realize this. I don't know if you mentioned this or someone else mentioned this, but Dave Grohl is one of the owners.
That's what I hear. He has a piece of it. That's the rumor. The rumor that I'm not a part of those business conversations. I'd love to be, but I'm not. And so yeah.
But that's opening up, and here in the very near future, and it's going to be right behind the current 930 Club.
Yes,
which is moved from its original location off of F Street.
And if you're listening, I know that there's some listeners. I'm going to shout out to my aunt who listens in New Mexico, and so kind of from this area. But not in this area in the time of the 930 Club. 930 Club is iconic. You can't, to me, talk about local music here in Washington, D.C. without talking about the 930 Club, because it was groundbreaking for so many bands in so many ways.
Yeah.
So this is kind of why this is a landmark event, like in this area, to have, another acknowledgement of the 930 family kind of being, or another, building of the 930 family being born.
Right. And the name, the Atlantis, was the original name of the original 930 Club, very briefly.
Yes.
Before it became the 930 Club. So they're opening a replica of that club, as I mentioned, right near the current 930 Club, and it's due to open, I think, next month. Mm-hmm. They start shows, but they had
starting with the Foo Fighters.
Yes. Starting with the Foo Fighters, and they had a unique way that they were handling tickets to those shows.
Yeah, so I'll talk about. So I feel like I went through this experience, and this. So we talked about this a little bit for Memorial Day for me. So coming up in another 6 weeks, I'm going to go see the Foo Fighters in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm going to the Sonic Temple Festival, and I was looking specifically for that because in one of our early podcasts we talked about who was going to be drumming for the Foo Fighters. That was like one of our big conversations. I'm going to go see who's going to be the drummer for the Foo Fighters. That show's relatively new in their their limited touring that they're doing this summer. So I don't, nothing of course official has been announced yet, but by then we're certainly going to know. So we're going to know soon. But when I went to buy tickets, I wanted to buy because of a Foo Fighters show, and I'm a Foo Fighters fanatic. I wanted to be up front. I wanted the VIP section. So I went to go and purchase tickets in that section, and they were all sold out. And I was like a day or two late, so I didn't jump on it. I was bad about that, right when it was released. But when you go to look then at aftermarket, there is no aftermarket sale for those tickets, because you go on basically what was on a wait list that was managed by that festival for anyone that was reselling their tickets. They're reselling them directly back to the festival through Ticketmaster, and then they in turn become available to you who's laying on this wait list. And that's what happened for me. So I jumped on the wait list. That you just basically give them, your purchasing information, so that your credit card number, and then they don't apply the charge until the tickets drop. And then tickets drop, and then that's that. So the fan experience of this and this side of it is that there's no escalation of ticket prices. So instead of me going on to, a third party site that might rhyme with Glubbub, and then pay like, 4 times the amount of what the original ticket price was, I got them at face value. So in the fan experience, it was fantastic. I think for Ticketmaster, it was all managed through Ticketmaster. Of course, they do what they do. They charge a fee every time.
Of course.
Right. And I just kind of wish, for me, like, that's something else that has to be resolved, right? Like this whole fee thing, like, every business expense, shouldn't be an extra add-on, in my opinion. It's kind of, the price is the price, right? And those expenses should all be considered as a part of the price, and just advertise it for what it is. But that to me is another conversation for another day. It's almost like, I feel like the offshoot of this, from what I'm seeing and my limited understanding of the ticket world, is what happened with Taylor Swift. And I know we're on the Stand Up and Shout rock show, but those 13-year-old girls had that disaster, or at least their parents did, of waiting in these long Ticketmaster lines and then not being able to get them, and of course then have the exuberant scalping prices then like fall in line after. The Swifties did that, but I remember when this happened with Pearl Jam back in the 90s, and Pearl Jam tried to like do the same thing and say the same things back then, but it wasn't 13-year-old girls with their parents. It was probably like, dopey 18-year-old dudes like me. And so Congress didn't care as much about it, because the audience wasn't the same.
Right.
We didn't have the same sway as those, teenage ladies that out there that were able to, get their parents on board and complain even more loudly.
It's business, and it's going to be there one way or the other. They're either just going to raise the price of the tickets and hide the fees in them, or they're going to sell the tickets and add the fees. Either way, it's like no different than a restaurant.
Right.
You can sell a cheeseburger that includes everything, or you can sell it and then charge for the mayonnaise and all that stuff too.
And I'm absolutely, so like, I think obviously now we're sitting in the Salisbury Center, and you just heard from Jeff Salisbury, who is my dear friend. I want everybody to win. That's my philosophy in all of this. We want, anybody in the music business to make money. It's not like we don't want them to make money, but we want fans to have a good fan experience. But I think like what got out of hand very obviously is the resale costs of tickets, and the people that just happened to be in line first, or in the case of electronic, the bots that would go out that people could take advantage of. And because they had technology knowledge, were able to, scarf up tons of tickets and then sell them then at outrageous prices for their own benefit, and really not have any interest in the music that was happening. So that's what I'm thinking with what's different. So to me, getting back to the Atlantis, and that's my personal story with purchasing tickets like under a system like this. And that was with the Sonic Temple Festival. And I think what's different about the Atlantis, because I put in for a list of events there, and I got my drop last week. Everything was unfulfilled. And so in my social media and in all my social media feeds, that to me is the $1 million word. And it's unfulfilling, like in more than a ticket sales way. It's unfulfilling in so many ways. It was such an appropriate word to pick, unfulfilled. But everybody had that experience. Rick was here. I'm calling out to my buddy Rick. We were talking that we were going to scratch each other's backs if we wind up getting Foo Fighters tickets. And he reached out to me immediately. He's like, I didn't get them. I was like, I didn't get them either. So sorry, Rick. So I'm just going to give a shout out to you. But either way, I don't see a resale there. I don't know what's happening with Atlantis. If I'm unfulfilled right now and I still want to go to a show, and I'm assuming that if someone else can't make it to a show, that they have the ability to sell those tickets back, so to speak. They would go back to Ticketmaster, but I don't know if they go into a next in line, kind of thing. So that's to be seen, I think, from what I'm witnessing.
Well, and the interesting part of that is, because I see it also on the Ticketmaster side with my caps, because I'm a cap season ticket holder. If you sell things through Ticketmaster on, the resale market, you're getting taxed now on that.
Yes.
So it's interesting that now they're doing that, like with Sonic Temple, and if that's how the Atlantis does it.
But nobody made any money off the resale for me. Right. So there's nothing to tax.
Right. Well, and that's what, that would be an interesting development if that's the case now. So if for whatever reason, the honest concert goer buys tickets and they're like, oh shoot, whatever happens, I can't go now.
Right.
And you can sell them back to Ticketmaster, and Ticketmaster's then going to give them or sell them to that next fan that's on a wait list. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because
right.
It's a benefit to those that truly want to go see those bands, as opposed to someone who's in it to make money off of it and are scooping up tickets and just, selling them on the secondary market and making 4, 5, 6, whatever times the price that they actually paid for them.
Yes.
So that would be a good development if that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
The Atlantis, my understanding is it only has about a capacity of 250 people.
Yeah.
So,
and then the gossip that I heard is that for Foo Fighters specifically, there were 50,000 requests estimated, to be in that lottery. So you had to get 250 out of 50,000 with your odds.
Your winning percentage is pretty low.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that small.
Yeah.
Because
it's smaller than 930.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's smaller than
the Salisbury Center.
It's smaller than one of the rooms in the Salisbury.
Well, I'm wondering, so, is that indicative of long-term success for them, or is this just kind of a limited run sort of thing?
Right.
Right. To, for whatever reason.
And I think that we're obviously putting in big names to get name recognition, for the event and the venue. And then I think obviously smaller acts will probably be what 930 used to be, right? Like this is an introductory venue for up and coming, musicians in the area.
Sure.
My girlfriend got Living Color tickets. So I, in turn, as long as she still wants me to go, that's gonna be my first foray into the Atlantis. And I love Living Color. So me, we've talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
The brutal debate. The never-ending debate.
It's hard to have a podcast without talking about Queensryche and Living Color.
That's right.
Well, so we've got some cool things coming up on the show. We're getting
a little gameish.
We are.
So like anybody that watches this or listens, I like, if you can't, you're obviously not here for the games. There's only a few of us here today. So this is a play at home kind of situation. So like it's recorded, but I think a lot of you all have thoughts, towards these recordings. In fact, I know it because people will find me and talk to me afterwards and then give me their opinions on things that we've talked about in depth.
No doubt.
If we start setting a schedule ahead of time, we can start going live.
Yes. Yeah. I'm liking.
Yeah.
I can see this as a futuristic possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we picked up a new sponsor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it Peloton?
Nope. It's RVRepairBear.com.
Oh, all right.
So they're going to supply the Mac Daddy RV for the dressing room out front for the Kicks show.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks, folks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
to RV
you.
What's going to happen in
Art Starboard over there?
All right. What's going to happen in the RV outside of the Salisbury Center?
Does the top come down?
I haven't seen it yet, but I can only imagine what it is.
Yeah. All right.
It's not a pink RV with a dance floor in it, though.
Damn. Because I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Salisbury Center party bus.
Yeah, the Wylde style. It was the Wylde style bus.
Wild style bus.
Yeah.
That sure would come in handy nowadays.
Right?
A little better late than never, but oh well.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into some games. You're listening to and watching the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show on the Wild Style Network.